Hello, everyone. Just a 2-minute warning. We're going to get started in just a minute or two. So if you could please take your seats, we will get started momentarily. Thanks.
All right, everyone. Boy, when we said take your seat, it didn't mean be quiet. Happy Top 2019 Demo Day. All right. So excited everybody could join us today. Just a quick show of hands. How many were here in the 2018 Demo Day? All right, maybe 10% were the census. We're going to give you some numbers. So my name is Stephen Buckner. I'm the Assistant Director for Communications, looking at marketing, digital, and strategic communications. And open data is what we do day in and day out here at the Census Bureau. And I'm just so happy that other federal agencies, our tech partners, and also the wonderful people behind the projects today that you're going to hear so much about are here to showcase how important data is to our communities. As you know, we're about 1 year out from the 2020 census, and we are actively underway to start talking about why the census is important, how our data is used in local communities, and how, more importantly, our data users take that data to solve real problems that affect every American living within this country. So we're really excited to showcase some of that data today from a Census Bureau perspective. You're going to have a whole range of individuals who are going to come up and talk specifically about the projects they're working at. I encourage you to ask as many questions during the demos as possible. A lot of work went into it, but I have the pleasure of introducing two of the ladies behind this whole project, our Census Open Innovation Labs. We have Drew Zachary, who's going to come up and give us sort of an understanding of some of the things that are going to go through the schedule. And then, of course, Mara Abrams. We have Lorena down here. She'll be talking to you a little bit later. And, of course, opening remarks from some of the speakers. So I want to hear some enthusiasm throughout the whole day. Let's keep it up-tempo. Really exciting for the census. Sorry we had the lapse in funding and could not have this earlier, but glad everybody could rearrange their schedules. We're up and running. Thank you very much. Don't forget to fill out your census in 1 year. All right. Drew.
Thank you, Stephen. Woo! Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to have you all here and to see some amazing products today. My name is Mara Abrams. I'm the founder and co-director of the Census Open Innovation Labs at the U.S. Census Bureau. And what we do is, open innovation is really about finding solutions to everyday challenges, but looking outside of our own walls for those solutions. And so that's what you're going to see here today through the Opportunity Project. So with that, I'm going to introduce my co-director of COIL, the Census Open Innovation Labs, and the co-founder and director of the Opportunity Project, Drew Zachary.
Thank you, Mara. Hello, everyone. I'm Drew. Thank you so much for coming today. We're very excited to see such a diverse group here. I'm just going to get right into the point of why we're here. We are the Opportunity Project, and we believe that data matters, not just because data is interesting, but because it solves problems for people in their everyday lives and helps them to do things that are important to them and make their lives better. And the Opportunity Project is really a process that we use to put data to work for people and help to solve some of the biggest challenges that we're facing in the country and around the world. We work differently than some of the other tech and government IT programs that you may be familiar with. We work fast and we work collaboratively to get to a better solution in less time and more efficiently. And we take on some of the biggest problems that you may all be tackling or you may be presenting about today, including disaster response, the opioid crisis, helping veterans to connect with career paths that are going to enhance their lives, and creating a better healthcare system for everyone. And so another thing that we believe is that diverse expertise leads to better solutions. So we don't work on problems by ourselves, which is why we have such a diverse crowd here today. And we want to take a minute to celebrate that by asking you guys to get involved a little bit. So I'll tell you about some of the groups that we have here today. So first, we have technologists. They have worked with us over the last year to actually build tech solutions to some of those huge problems. So let's hear a round of applause if you're a technologist in the audience. Okay, awesome, yeah. The second group, also very important, we have civil servants, people from federal government, state and local government, tribal governments, who help to ensure that people are really connecting with big problems. So let's hear it if you're government. Hey. Maybe the most important group is the user advocates, and this is what we call anybody who can really help to ensure that the tech that's being built isn't just a cool gadget, but something that's really going to be useful and address a real felt need for real people. So let's hear it from the audience if you are an advocate, an advocacy organization, an expert in an issue. Okay. And finally, this may be a smaller group today, but we have some product experts in the room, and this is really important because these are the people who help to ensure that the tech products that are built aren't just here today for a presentation, but that they will actually get into people's hands and be used. So let's hear it if you're on the product side. Okay, a few people. And finally, I just want to point out that we have a global community here today. We have people genuinely from all around the world. So if people aren't feeling too shy on a Friday, does anyone want to call out what country you're from, if it's not this one? Estonia!
Yeah, yeah.
Anybody else? Israel! Anybody else? Not another country, but we'll take it. We do have people from all over this country, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Michigan, everywhere in between. We're super excited to have that crowd here today. And I want to take a minute to actually pause before our very exciting speaker and talk through some logistics. So since we're going to be talking to you about disaster preparedness today, I want to make sure to point out that in the event of an emergency, there are emergency exits along this wall here and over here. But in all seriousness, that's where they are. If you need to use the bathroom, it's outside behind the auditorium. And Mara is going to talk a little bit about some of the ways that you can get involved during the day today.
Yeah, social media is highly encouraged. Please use our hashtag Opportunity Project. So hashtag Opportunity Project, tweet, Insta, Snap, whatever you want to do. Quick overview of the day. So we'll have lightning talks in 4 themes. And then at 3:15, we'll move into a different room for live demos where you can actually test out all of these cool products and meet the people who built them. We'll have 2 breaks between 12 and 3. And please check out our interactive exhibits. Just outside of here, you can actually pin where you're from on the big map. Let's see. Oh, and we'll have a wall that says, I want data to help me, ... Please fill that in. Tell us about some of the challenges that you're facing either as an agency or community member that data can help solve, and maybe we'll actually incorporate that into the next sprints for the Opportunity Project.
Okay, great, and with that, I am very excited to welcome Dr. Neil Jacobs as our opening speaker. We're very excited about this in particular because, as you'll see today, NOAA, the agency that he leads, has been a really critical part of providing data for some of the solutions that will be presented. Dr. Jacobs is the Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Environmental Observation and Prediction, performing the duties of Undersecretary of Commerce for Oceans and Atmospheres, or you know as NOAA. In this role, Dr. Jacobs is responsible for the strategic direction and oversight of over $3.4 billion in annual spending, supporting NOAA's broad portfolio of sea, air, land, and space observing platforms, as well as critical infrastructure for the assimilation and exploitation of the environmental data that we find so useful. And he also holds a doctoral degree in atmospheric science. So with that, please welcome Dr. Neil Jacobs.
Well, thank you, Drew and Mara, and thank you to everyone here at the Opportunity Project. This is very exciting for me because I actually came from the startup world trying to come up with creative ways to use the data. But I'm representing the Department of Commerce and my agency, NOAA, today, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the data that we produce and the data that we put out in the public and all of the different ideas, creative ways that we see people using our data. We're a data-driven agency. That's what we do. We collect observations and we make them available to the public. And there's a lot of different observing systems that we use. Some of them are what we call in situ observing systems, which are floats, subsurface. We have Argo profilers. I typically tell people we observe everything from the bottom of the sea floor all the way to the surface of the sun. And if we could figure out how to go into the sun, we'd do that too. We sample the atmosphere through aircraft data with weather balloons. If you look across the street, you'll see a building with a bunch of satellite dishes on the roof. That's our command and control center for the 18 satellites that we operate. What a lot of people don't realize is there are also alternate data sources that we collect that aren't necessarily observing systems that we deployed. I'll give you a couple examples. A lot of you have smartphones, and a lot of these smartphones have pressure sensors. And we're pulling pressure data off your phones if you so choose to activate the app, and we can assimilate that into the models to initialize them. Another thing that we're looking at, what are other creative ways to pull in data that you wouldn't necessarily think we'd use for a weather model? Well, here's one way we can verify precipitation. If you get in your car and Bluetooth your phone, you turn on your windshield wipers, we know you're driving through rain. Either that or you're in a car wash. Actually, when we started looking at smartphone pressure data, the first thing we saw was a low pressure anomaly in the morning and a high pressure anomaly in the evening in urban areas. And it was people with their phones in their pockets going up because they worked on the 40th floor of a building and then coming back down. So new data actually presents new ways of coming up with quality control. But we're entering a situation, and I used to joke about people just using the catchphrase big data without actually knowing what big data really was. We generate terabytes of data a day. A typical model output cycle is between 4 and 6 terabytes. We have an archive right now that exceeds 28 petabytes. Our satellites generate a tremendous amount of data. These file sizes are enormous. And you can imagine when we're trying to run weather models, we're pulling in this data and sticking them into the model as fast as we can. The data actually has a shelf life. The faster we can get the data in the model, the better. If we can't get the data in before we kick off the model run, the data is useless. And so we're running into a problem. How do you move, a terabyte of data from a place where we pre-process the satellite data into the model? There's bottlenecks all over the place. We're trying to explore artificial intelligence and machine learning right now to figure out how to parse the satellite data to thin it down so we can move it from point A to point B. And you wouldn't want to thin satellite data over a high-pressure system the same way you'd want to thin it over a cyclone. So it presents a lot of interesting opportunities where we're constantly going to be playing catch-up with the volume of data that we're dealing with. And we got a lot of really smart scientists. But what I really wanted to do was try to access all of the intellect in the community. So we've been working with various cloud vendors to put all of this data out there so that users like you can get access to it. So we've been working with folks like Google, with Amazon, with Microsoft, putting the data out on the cloud so that users can download it and optimize it and refine it and my hope is that they'll feed back these improvements to our agency so we can further our mission of protecting life and property. And in the process, you can develop a business around using the data, creating interesting applications from the data. We're not just doing this with data, we're actually doing this with the source code to our model too. We got a heavy lift on our side because if you're familiar with what we do, we run numerical weather models. It's about 5 million lines of Fortran code. And unless you have access to a giant HPC system, you're not going to get very far. So 2 of my goals while I'm at NOAA were porting this code over to architecture that the users actually had access to, and ideally transitioning it to a language that they teach in the 21st century. These aren't exactly trivial things to solve, but I can tell you that we do have our model running in all 3 cloud vendors now. And if we can get the code user-friendly enough and run on architecture that the community has access to, my hope and my dream is that we will essentially crowdsource software development. And that's where I think things will really accelerate. So I just wanted to take an opportunity here to thank everyone for really doing creative problem solving. That's what I would call it. Coming up with interesting ideas to use data. This is in the, you know, there's a lot of different reasons why NOAA's in the Commerce Department, but one of the things that I like to think is we're actually driving economic benefit by producing this information for users like yourselves to generate products and applications and services. That's what we're here for, that's what we're due, and I'm exceptionally proud of the mission that we serve, and it's really exciting for me to see what all the users are doing with the data, because a lot of times we stick our data on some server somewhere or some cloud with some API and people download it and we have no idea what they do with it. In fact, we don't even know half the time who's downloading it. And when I try to look back and do a cost-benefit analysis, it's really hard to figure out what the benefit is if I don't know what people are doing with the data. So I'd love to come to things like this and see what everybody's doing, so then I can go back and I could say, hey, you know what, this is having a real impact in the economy and it's really important, so we should keep putting this out there. So anyway, thank you very much. Congratulations on all the hard work you did to get here. I will be around later today. I hope to have a chance to talk to everyone and see the different projects that you've done. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Jacobs. We appreciate your support to the Opportunity Project. I'm missing my clip. Thank you, Drew. I'm extremely honored to present the first round of lightning speakers for today. But first I want to tell you a little bit of my personal story, and some of the tools that you're about to see are very, very personal to me, especially because some of the topics really hit home when we talk about community resiliency, when we talk about emergency response, when we talk about disaster recovery. For me, it's more about people coming together under the face of adversity and despair. The teams about to come up stage developed solutions to problems that I hold very near and dear to my heart. I had an opportunity to work very closely with some of the people that have been working on these projects to fuel innovation in ways that truly inspire me to tell the story. So I'm Lorena Molina. I'm the Director of Operations for the Census Open Innovation Labs, and I have the pleasure to work with these 2 beautiful ladies, Drew and Mara. This is where I was born and raised. It's a very small island in the middle of the Caribbean, 100 by 35 miles. a tiny but mighty island. This is Puerto Rico, lit up at night before Hurricane Maria hit on September 2017. And this is what it looked like just days after, when the whole island went dark. For most areas, this was not a couple of weeks, it was probably several months. A moment like this is Caguas, Puerto Rico, one of the municipalities. This is when you realize that literally something as simple as sending a text or making a call to your family to make sure that they're all right is virtually impossible. The entire power grid was down. When you realize that basic health needs are not being met because you have hospitals running on generators, when you have lines of 9-hour people just waiting to get gas at a gas station. We all live in an always connected community, and sometimes actually forget that access to information, specifically access to data, especially data that could save people's lives, is a luxury in a technology-enabled world. This is when you realize that data-driven decision-making is not as easy as just a click of a mouse. When there is no data accessible to literally save people's lives, to get people from one place to the next when you have a bridge or a road collapsing. You'll see solutions that use satellite imagery to detect surface motion and infrastructure deformation to identify buildings that are at risk. Tools that enable community members to crowdsource real-time data, completely disconnected and offline, and that empower local civic leaders to identify the needs of their own community in a situation like this. Or a platform that helps the municipios in Puerto Rico enhance the island's address point data to empower emergency responders and local decision makers to react to disaster and provide aid to the people that they serve. As Drew mentioned, we have had probably almost 75 tools built throughout the Opportunity Project that helps address some of these very relevant and real problems. But 2018 was the first year that we brought top tech talent, state, local governments together, community members, and decision makers in one same room to openly talk about these problems. We held the first ever top in-person convening where actual data users in Puerto Rico share their stories and came together to harness and show the value of open data. We had emergency responders, civic leaders, students, entrepreneurs, and many whom are actually here today. Thank you for all that hard work. It's been so inspiring to see what that initial convening of people in the room is becoming today, and all the tools that you're about to see. So today you'll see just a few of them, and I invite you to go to the live expos and interactive expos later at 3 in the conference rooms to see the rest. So with that, please help me in welcoming the first Lightning speaker for the day, who's a third-time top veteran, the COO of the Estonian American company, Datel Ovela. Carl Pushi, come on up.
Great. Is this working? Yeah, good. Thank you, Lorena, for the introduction and for ensuring that all of us keep sight on why we are here. Our heartfelt gratitude extends to the top and FEMA teams with whom we've worked over these months and years. An adventure similar to something from Nicholas Sparks' book, Crossing Paths with Star Wars, took me from hometown USA to the just as surreal Northern European e-government powerhouse of Estonia. This is our spacecraft, the European Space Agency Sentinel-1, and she is a twin. Together, the pair have orbited the Earth every 6 days since 2015, providing insight on the millimeter by millimeter health of every structure on the planet. Our team in Estonia, together with ESA, have developed an AI that is capable of rapidly processing and visualizing her data in a way that has dramatically changed the inspection of critical infrastructure. As a nearly zero debt to GDP nation, Estonia demanded a way to remotely inspect infrastructure without drones and people. To prevent catastrophes such as bridge and dam failures, we needed a generation leap in technology, and the orbital twins are just one puzzle piece. The unthinkable storm, the 100-year flood, the winter storm of the century are all increasing in vigor and intensity, as is our understanding of climate science. However, many of us have been missing a key element in that calculus: land motion. The Earth under us is moving at different rates everywhere, and the structures we built in the past are reaching their limits. We are here to make Earth observation accessible. This platform automatically develops the inconceivably massive amount of data from the Sentinels, giving us the ability to show which infrastructure is weak before the disaster arrives, and then amplifies the problems we need not have known were there. In our first discussions with FEMA, we reviewed the reports on national preparedness. Findings included detail on the incredible lack of disaster readiness across American communities. We immediately drew a parallel to individual health. Prior to a diagnosis of high cholesterol, few of us are going to stop eating bacon cheeseburgers. It's only afterwards does that kale salad even look remotely possible. We aim to find a way to inform communities of their level of risk in a disaster, in the hope that they would actually evacuate in the next storm or take other measures to increase their readiness. Taking the Sentinel-1 open radar data together with census block files, we analyzed the motion of a swath of American communities from Baltimore to Wilmington and San Juan, Puerto Rico. From the thousands of points of motion across households, bridges, seawalls, and parks, aggregating the data up to an easy-to-understand block-level index of structural risk, something that we can now immediately use for emergency planners in those communities. In an almost unsettling twist of fate, we can now see the invisible, leading to the discovery of a nuclear power station in Pennsylvania with a cracked cooling pump structure and turbine hull, key motion indicators days before the failure of the Oroville Dam spillway in California, bridges between Miami and Key Biscayne that were worrying enough to all of us that we immediately tried to contact Florida DOT. We all know that much of our critical infrastructure is in desperate condition. However, do we have any understanding of that condition in real time when our inspection schedules are at best every 2 years, perhaps none at all, and the reports are trapped in the data silo or somebody's desk? The topic of infrastructure status extends across a wide field of our national interests. And what we have built is a tool that offers you a way to prioritize, triage, and prepare. Space may be indeed the final frontier, but together we can bring the frontier to work for all of us. From the brilliant American structural engineers teaching our AI to Earth observation teams from ESA and FEMA boots on the ground, this effort has been and continues to be remarkable. Thank you once again to everyone here, and especially our Rockstar families, for believing in how we really can make an impact on disaster readiness. After all, isn't that exactly when we need it the most?
Buenos días a todos, bienvenidos, gracias por estar aquí. Voy a dar esta presentación en español, so espero que todos ustedes entiendan. I'm going to give this presentation in Spanish, so I hope you all understand. Without an address, the things that you take for granted doesn't exist, they don't work. Without an address, you live outside the law, says an economist from Peru, called Nando de Soto. He added, you may as well not exist. Addresses, it's a little bit like your numbers in your telephone, digits that you use so people can communicate with you. It's a little bit like the social security number, which is the way we know who you are. And it's an essential part of your identity. My name is Raúl Ríos Díaz, and I am an address management consultant working in Puerto Rico for the last 20 years. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. obviously. And I used to be the manager for address management for the Postal Service. So I worked 30 years ago in implementing the federal standard for addressing in Puerto Rico, and I witnessed firsthand the difficulties in kind of making that translation between the local addressing practices and the need of the federal government. But I want to tell you about a moment that actually changed my life forever. But before I do, you need to understand something very important about what we do and the issues that we are facing in Puerto Rico. We are going to talk about the average Joe, so let's call him Juan. And Juan have one house, but he have dozens of different addresses. Why? Because the addressing in Puerto Rico, before we created the standards to make them compliant with federal regulations, they were basically built under 400 years of Spanish rule. So they were built under the Spanish postal system with a different syntax, different language, 3-line addresses, and it creates the situation now that in federal databases, we don't have a single address for Juan. So we have multiple addresses. And this is a problem we need to read. The other problem we have is the fact that there are multiple streets with the same name. 100 streets are called Calle Uno in the municipio of Bayamón. But he's lucky because there are people like Doña Juanita that actually live in the air. She lives in a rural area. She doesn't even have an address. We did a study that showed that 30 to 50% of the citizens of Puerto Rico do not have a locatable address. And then on September 16, 2017, this happened. And the official word was that less than 100 people actually died during Hurricane Maria. But in June 2018, actually, thousands of shoes were placed in front of the capital city because we realized that a bunch of the people that died were invisible. And this is the moment that changed my life. That's why I take this opportunity very seriously because we want to do something about it. We created a tool that we call the Puerto Rico Address Database Operation Support, PRADOS, that actually in Spanish means meadows, and it's a tool that will provide a spell checker live functionality to all the municipalities in Puerto Rico so that we can fix this problem. And we do so by 3 ways. We basically have the opportunity now to change all the street names so we make sure that they are compatible within what the federal agencies are using. We want to help 78 different municipalities, hundreds of state and federal agencies to speak one language in a cloud-based tool that will allow us to communicate all the municipalities together. It functions like an address dictionary using data from the US Postal Census, the Tiger files, and postal data from the United States Postal Service to make sure that every municipality is using the same street name, the same urbanization names. And we also use data sets and the idea of the scheme for the national address file so we can produce data that is compatible at a national level. At the end, we created what we call the Initiative for Civic Address System Assessment, ICASA-PR, which is a multi-sectional unit that will make sure that we can speak the same language. In Spanish, we say, hablando, la gente se entiende, which means talking, only by talking can people understand each other. So we hope that you join us in this conversation. We hope you help us put the people in Puerto Rico back on the map because no one deserves to be invisible. Thank you very much.
Hello, thank you for taking time out of your day to be here today. My name is Brian Monheiser, and I am the Executive Vice President of Government Solutions for Spatial Networks. I don't need to tell you guys that disaster response is critically important, right? And we're always looking for ways that we can get better at doing it. Those decisions are going to be made with data, right? And time-sensitive data is critically important. It's the data that we stage ahead of the event, and it's the data that we collect during the event. That data needs to be available. It needs to be searchable, discoverable, and usable. And usable means a lot of things to a lot of people. But it's essentially being able to tell a narrative that somebody can make a decision from. We want to be able to do that when the area that we're accustomed to seeing no longer looks like what we see. It looks like this. More importantly, that data needs to be spatially enabled, right? It's got to be something that we can use and that all folks can use. Our approach was pretty easy. Our challenge was pretty easy, right? And it was battle tested already. We were asked to provide a capability that supported many users, specifically disconnected users, right? Folks who had no access to any sort of comms. But most importantly, it needed to be able to collect and collaborate in an open and interoperable database, or interoperable address database. So in all of this, our approach was to use Fulcrum Community. Fulcrum Community is our no-cost solution for disaster response. It's our support to humanitarian efforts. And from the data side, we needed to leverage an existing and approved and open database schema. So in this instance, we use the NAD schema, or the National Address Database schema. And through our builder, we were easily able to import those existing schemas into the builder, build forms and business rules from a web browser, deploy that capability to a mobile workforce in the field, and then have enough data that we can start making decisions on. How do we decide who to save first? How do you know, right? What about the person that's sitting on the roof and they're diabetic, and if we don't get them first, they die? These tools allow us to make those decisions. They allow us to prioritize how we respond in disasters, and ultimately makes us a better group of people. I thank you for your time today, and I'll be around later if you'd like to talk.
Disaster Trail is a game that takes players through a variety of natural disasters. The outcomes of those disasters reinforce protective actions that people need if they were to actually face them. The mini-games are tied together with a financial preparedness theme to reinforce one of the more important aspects of disaster preparedness. I'm Kristen Hayden, a learning technology specialist with Motif.
I'm Eddie Melser, an assistant professor at UC Santa Cruz, and also running our new Serious Games program, just like that. So our disaster awareness game is designed to help young professionals who may have spent their whole life growing up in a certain area with a certain set of disasters, learn to transition to new areas for work, college, these types of things, and learn these whole new set of disaster preparedness actions. We drew heavily on inspirations from our own experience. Mine, for example, was I spent my whole life in Florida. I learned how to deal with hurricanes, moved to New York for school. Now I had blizzards to deal with, had never really seen snow before. And now I'm all the way across on the West Coast in California, and there's earthquakes and wildfires to deal with. And all of these I've never learned protective actions for, and many of the people on our team hadn't as well when they'd moved to new areas. And so our general user journey idea is that we are building a mobile game that we're going to make available on app stores, Play Store, those types of things, and help distribute it through agencies that help outreach to the community, such as government, state agencies, universities, these types of things.
The data that we're using is primarily qualitative data from FEMA that they've collected on ready.gov, protective actions for every disaster. We also included some what's in it for me data for players based on disaster declaration visual tool that FEMA also has. The TOP experience, this game did not exist before this project. No part of it existed. We existed, the team existed, but this game is completely based on the federal needs. And the experience was great because the openness allowed us to play test with the audience. We didn't have to worry about NDAs, we didn't have to worry about PRAs. We could just take it out to people and ask them to play. We also got to work with undergrads, and those undergrads actually came from the user base. They're people who may have moved, they're the target audience, so they were able to help us shape the game into something that they would want to play and something that would help teach them the actions. And that was really valuable for us in terms of the building empathy. And you can see them at the table. That's Kyle and Rahil. And you can play test the game with us and help us shape it even more.
So moving forward, we plan to build the game out more, hopefully have a fully ready version of this flood game and an hurricane game in June, and then go from there. It's been wonderful. We like it. We want to keep going. And I just wanted to thank the wonderful team at Motif that's worked with us and my wonderful team of undergrads that have also helped.
Good morning. I want to talk today about the Demographic Environmental Volunteer Opportunity Plotter. It kind of created an interesting thing for us to talk about a problem that we have here in the Mid-Atlantic region. As we know, for those of you familiar with geography, this is the Chesapeake Bay watershed. You see the District of Columbia over there to the left. Up there you have Baltimore. Bloomberg, we've had a very big interest in Baltimore, engaging with the community, with civic organizations, and trying to make sure that we keep our Chesapeake Bay clean. Because this is the watershed for millions of people, it has a huge impact on our oceans, and it's critical that we keep the drinking water and other recreational services open for people. And so, as a society, we're not doing too, if you actually take a look at Baltimore, you can see a whole bunch of rivers going into the Papsco, areas around here. All of this eventually goes downstream into the Chesapeake Bay. And it's a mess. As you can see here, this is just bottles and stuff coming out of the community. You can see basketballs, we have plastic bottles. All this is what we consider to be consumer waste. And as a company, we spend a lot of time with our volunteer programs going through and cleaning up and taking out stuff from different areas. This is actually the Anacostia, but you can see a bunch of tires, a bunch of other things. And the question we asked ourselves is, how can we better position to serve the community? How can we prevent this stuff from ever even going into the streams and the oceans? How can we target where we should work? It's one thing to go to a place because we like the park, or we like the community, or there's a Starbucks nearby, but how do we know we're being the most effective in the location that has the greatest amount of consumer pollution? And how do we help solve this problem? So using ArcGIS data, we were able to use the Census Bureau's county business patterns, the ACS survey, as well as stewardship data of seeing where different organizations were located in Baltimore to figure out where can we best position our resources. And so we also discovered that within the city of Baltimore, there's what we would call community service deserts, that there are no organizations working on these issues, that there are huge swaths of the city that have consumer pollution going into it, but there's not an organization there doing the water stewardship and activities like that. And so what we wound up doing is we actually using the ArcGIS data, we actually plotted where all the convenience stores and mom and pop grocery stores are within the community. And it's very fascinating for us to be able to see, okay, there's 22 in this part of the city over here, there's 4 over here, there's 5 over there. These are where bottles, cans, plastic bags are going in. And Maryland, because it lacks both the bottle deposit tax as well as the universal bag tax, has a lot of that going into the waters. Then we asked ourselves, being able to plot it, we were then able to plot on top of it where are different service projects working. We created a form using Google that individuals could plot their community service activity, what they were taking out of the river, what things were coming in, what things were being planted, so we could then overlay that with additional data. Our idea is by deploying that to community service groups, we then plot where all the activities are going, and if we notice that there's not a cleanup going on in a certain part with high consumer pollution, we actually send some additional groups there where we can help figure out ways that we can bring an oasis of service to that desert. We also went through and looked at different economic areas, plotting schools and activities that we could possibly reach out to schools to get them to do their service projects to help get them more engaged with the community. And looked at this, like, okay, here where the school concentrations are and where the service project's happening. You can see down here in this direction, there's lots of schools with very little service projects. We view that as an opportunity to engage community partners more to help beautify and clean up Baltimore. Data plus volunteers a huge impact for us, and we think it has a huge opportunity for us to grow and improve this project. I invite you to come by my table today. talk about some of your experiences and how, even though we use Baltimore as an example, we can apply this to any of the great cities here in America or small towns and communities to help make a better environmental impact. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you at the demos.
Okay, thank you so much. What do you guys think of the first 5 projects? We're so excited to actually go and test them out at live demos. I hope everybody saw something that they want to check out. I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to make a beeline for the game, and I'm excited to check out the rest of them too. Just in case that's not enough, I wanted to mention a few other really exciting projects that, although they won't be speaking on stage, we want to give them some recognition because they built amazing things that are here today, and you can go meet them and test out their products. So the previous one is called StewMap Explorer, and I just want to mention that do we have colleagues from the Forest Service here today? Hello, welcome, woohoo. For those on the live stream, that was a lot of hands. So we, for the first time through the Opportunity Project, the Forest Service made this incredible data set called StewMap available to the public. And it provides really critical information on environmental stewardship, as you just heard from Peter from Bloomberg. So another team that participated in that challenge, Mapbox, built StewMap Explorer, which uses this data and makes it simple to see what organizations are working in which turfs for local groups to better connect with others caring for their environment. TomTom, and actually, if you can click one slide ahead, so this is TomTom built Centaur's data logging app, an open source mobile app that is an address point capture tool, and it incorporates the US National Grid to assign coordinates in an online or offline mode to make non-traditionally addressed locations addressable, super useful for places like Puerto Rico and some of the other challenges that we've heard about. And then finally, Loveland Technologies built Puerto Rico Land Grid, which combines a parcel map of Puerto Rico with a scalable mobile survey platform and federal open data. And they're doing incredible work for Puerto Rico, so I encourage you guys to check out all of them today. And with that, I would like to introduce the next speaker who's going to kind of wrap up this theme for us. Mr. Alex Amparo is the Assistant Administrator for National Preparedness Directorate at the Department of Homeland Security's Federal Emergency Management Agency, which you know as FEMA. He is responsible for delivering education, training, and exercises to build a culture of preparedness in the United States. He has a distinguished career in emergency management over more than 2 decades. And I just wanted to highlight that in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy, Mr. Amparo was instrumental in utilizing geospatial technology to deliver expedited rental assistance to survivors who were unable to access their damaged homes. So this is someone who has been really helpful not only to us in the Opportunity Project, but to communities across the country after emergencies. So please welcome Mr. Alex Amparo.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Drew. How exciting it is to be here today. Especially taking a look back at 2017, 2018, that for our nation, were the most catastrophic years that we've seen in recent memory. We've had over 15% of the population, more than 45 million people that were affected in one way or the other, whether that was from the wildfires that were occurring in Northern California or in Southern California, or whether it was you were on the island of Vieques or Culebra or in the Virgin Islands impacted by Maria. And it started the end of August of 2017, where you had a powerful Category 4-5 hurricane that hit Port Aransas, Texas. It went on and it dropped 50 inches of rain in Houston. And at that moment, I thought this was a singular event that would engulf all of the agency's resources, all of the nation's resources to be able to address what Hurricane Harvey brought. It wasn't over because it kept going into Beaumont, dropped another 30 inches of rain. Weeks later, you had Hurricane Irma, which came as a Category 4, Category 5, hitting Vieques, Culebra, Puerto Rico, parts of the VI, and a beeline to the Keys. going up and hitting Southwest Florida, making landfall, another Category 4 hurricane. So what are we going to do now? We had fires burning, 2 catastrophic events. And you thought there could be nothing more. And then you had Maria that came in, and the areas that were not damaged by Irma were now damaged by Maria. Catastrophic to an island that had infrastructure that was already damaged. It didn't stop there, right? And that was 2017, 2018. And so when I see the innovation that's happening here because of the Opportunity Project and because of all you taking action now before something has happened, it is exciting. Right? We're living in a changing world. And to say that all we're looking at is natural disasters, it would be a fallacy. Because we also have threats that we're having to deal with that deal with both our infrastructure that's aging, 1 in 11 bridges that are near failure, and understanding a millimeter's difference in how a bridge may be moved can make the difference between life and death. Understanding where people live and their address, the smallest thing like an address, is the difference between whether life-sustaining aid reaches that person. Understanding the synchronization of who is helped first. Right? These are all things that we've just talked about. And equally as exciting is a game, being able to reach a different generation, an earlier generation, on how we collectively are preparing this nation for the threats that are real possibilities. You know, just north of, in Northern California, we have where the San Andreas Fault ends and the Cascadia subduction zone begins. That takes you through Oregon, through Washington, into Vancouver, lies one of the greatest threats and one of the greatest catastrophes in the making that our nation has seen in modern time. The Cascadia subduction zone, the tension that's being built up while these 2 plates are stuck one under the other, will cause an earthquake of magnitudes that we haven't seen, a tsunami that will devastate the area. We lost 3,000 people in 1906 earthquake that occurred. We've lost 2,000 people in Hurricane Katrina. Current estimates on a Cascadia subduction zone would be upwards of 13,000. And so what are we doing now? And how are we preparing people now? Understanding what their risks are and giving folks, and understanding that each one of us plays a role in how we prepare this nation. And we haven't even started talking about cybersecurity and the threats to our, the sectors that we have and how that will impact us. Cascading effects from power to wastewater, right? These tools that you saw today are part of the beginning. And so my challenge is continue to look for innovative ways that we can make actionable steps forward to ready this nation and really create a culture of preparedness that's part of our everyday life. So with that, I thank you all. Thank you for all the participants. Thanks to the Department of Commerce and to Census. Job well done.
Thank you so much. We're going to take a 5-minute break. So just 5 minutes, come back to your seats. Thank you.
page raise up and down? Yeah. It's a little square thing. Oh. Because we have a really tall guy followed by a photo. Okay, I'll let him back. Thank you.
Lorena?
So,
Cox wanted to see how it was adjustable.
yeah. So this goes up, and that one goes out. And
That's
then the
pretty
click-
intuitive.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I actually had to call and be like, "Where is it?" They're like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
yeah.
just the little two buttons right there." I'm like, "Okay."
This is going so well. The
Thank
FEMA
you.
disaster relief, Puerto Rico is so compelling.
Hello,
Oh my
how you
God.
doing?
Hi, how are you?
Lorena. She's
All right,
like
I'm
arranged
Elena.
all this with Drew.
Yes.
Okay, great,
I'm the director
great.
of operations for Coil. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
This next topic, I think it's going to be like so compelling.
Great.
So I'm super excited for that. So right now, you can use either this lavalier that
That's
is
on.
on.
Please wrap up your break. I hope it's been wonderful. We're going to get started again in just a minute, so please take your seats. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Hello again. Thanks for sitting down. So it's my pleasure now to introduce Julianne Galina, who's going to kick off the next section of the agenda on revolutionizing the workforce. So we're shifting gears from protecting people and planet, resilient communities and people, to thinking about what the future of the workforce looks like. And we're thrilled to welcome Julianne, not only because IBM has been a great collaborator over the last few years, but because she's the perfect person to talk about this, being an engineer, a veteran, and a leader in a STEM field who knows a thing or two about the workforce. She is currently Vice President of U.S. Federal Key Accounts at IBM. She's previously led Cognitive Solutions for National Security, Watson Technology for global national security clients, and numerous other accomplishments that I won't read because we would be here truly all day. She's also a graduate with honors of the U.S. Naval Academy at Annapolis, Naval Postgraduate School, George Washington University, and we're just very honored that she's here with us today. So thanks so much, Julianne.
Thank you, Drew. Hi, everyone. I think workforce revolution is really about continuous reinvention. Have you reinvented yourself over the past year because of a job or because of a technology? I bet you have. If you take a moment to think about it, I'm certain you have. I'm an IBMer. There are 385,000 of us, give or take a few. By comparison, the active duty component of the US Navy, which I'm also an alumnus, is about 325,000 personnel. So I'm comfortable with some very big, solid, very traditional organizations who have been enduring, partly because they're steady, but really my thesis is because they know how to continuously reinvent themselves. It's very deliberate in IBM. And I've been part of some deliberate efforts in the past. For example, in the Navy in 1993, I had an opportunity, myself and 5 other women, to become part of ship's crew of about 800 men for a deployment. It was fabulous, and we got the mission accomplished, mainly through the support, the groundswell of support from the sailors themselves, the people in the workforce itself. I've also had some other opportunities to be part of reinvention and workforce change through technology. As a government engineer, had an opportunity to launch and perform the engineering evaluation and checkout of a brand new, first-of-a-kind satellite system. And honestly, it's like doing that is like the nerdy equivalent of counting your baby's 10 fingers and 10 toes, because when you send the commands up and you receive the telemetry back and you know that that antenna deployed and the data starts flowing through, it's like having your baby smile back at you. It's a really beautiful moment. But I think the thing that has made me think overtly about continuous reinvention and this idea that workforce reinvention is not only driven by deliberate organizational change, but also by the technologies around us and also human behavior, is my work with artificial intelligence. So at IBM, of course, we are very proud of the game-playing Jeopardy champion, Watson. And I had the chance about 8 years ago to take that research system, total spaghetti code, with apologies to my research colleagues, take it and move it into a US government agency and apply it for a national security mission. It was the first real practical application of artificial intelligence for that organization. And it was really fascinating when you start really digging into the field of artificial intelligence to understand that you have to be a student of human cognitive functions, the way people think, to understand how to make that technology effective in the workplace. I see some nods in the audience. Thank you. I like that kind of feedback. And that's perfect If I can have the first real page, please, thanks. It's perfect for me to give you an example of one way that we continuously reinvent ourselves in IBM, and that's through client projects. Behind me, you'll see some images of people, and you might find some of them familiar. This young lady is an actress, or at least it's modeled on an actress. It's not a real photograph. That's an avatar that's created by a business partner called Soul Machines. You might know the CEO, Mark Sager. He's an Oscar award-winning CGI wizard who gave you the graphics behind Avatar and King Kong. And his New Zealand-based company is now working with IBM, building chatbot technology on top of our artificial intelligence APIs. So the reason why I think this is really pretty amazing is because he's taken it to another level. We all know intuitively that the user interface is important, especially when you've called to make a reservation or you're trying to work with your home-based AI system, and you want that speech-to-text API to really work well, and you want the natural language understanding technology behind that to work perfectly and understand your words in context. But it lacks something, doesn't it, when it's so mechanical? And Mark Sagar's idea is that you can break down the barriers between people and technology by making those avatars actually understand your emotions. So some of us are really familiar and comfortable with technology that's used for social listening, sentiment analysis. We have people in the audience, I'm sure, who look at some of this data and are users and consumers of it. In fact, we're all affected by it because retailers use it on us offensively all the time to know what we like and what we don't like, what's making us happy, what's not making us happy. But in a chatbot experience, it becomes really important to understand how are people feeling about their experience? What do they really want? And so Mark Sagar thinks the key is to create these avatars that understand human emotion and then respond back in kind. The reason why I selected this particular partnership with Mark Sagar and his company Soul Machines is because they're doing a project for the Australian government, the National Disability Insurance Agency, to create these avatars to help provide better citizen transparency and access to government services. Specifically, this avatar, it's not this one, but she looks very similar. Nadia, and I'd love for you to go online and check this. YouTube has some amazing videos. Nadia is designed to help disabled Australians access a website and chat and have that personal interaction so that they can ease their way through forms and get what they need. And just think about that. How does that transform a citizen's access to government? And then later on, with other possibilities, how does it allow people in the workforce, perhaps, to interact in the work environment in ways that perhaps disabled people with disabilities couldn't do in the past? It opens up a world of possibilities. Again, all of this technology with the avatars is more than just the graphics. It's built on APIs. This is just a snapshot of a few, and later on today you are going to see multiple demonstrations that are built on top of these APIs. My colleagues from IBM will show you one immediately after this. Okay, we can move on from that. So this year, just on Tuesday, as a matter of fact, this organization called Ethisphere named IBM one of the world's most ethical companies. There are 128. That seems kind of like a random number to me, but maybe they had like 100 and then they found 28 that those were cool too. But it's basically intended to define companies that are really committed to social change and responsibility, impact on culture and society. If we can go to the next one. I think one of the reasons why IBM was recognized was because of our policy and our stance, which I believe is part of our deliberate choice to help revolutionize not just the workplace, but our world. And that is our principles on trust and transparency. So these were issued last year while some other companies were undergoing a lot of scrutiny about their use of data, consumer data specifically, maybe some of yours. We released these principles, and it was really motivated because we want artificial intelligence to be ubiquitous, meaning it should be as common as the electricity that's running and comes out of the outlets in the wall. It's in your pockets, in your mobile phones right now. But the data that is used to train the models for artificial intelligence applications is really critical. So let's say you're developing an application for mortgage applicants, let's say. And if you're using historical data, it might teach or train that machine learning model to bake in the bias that has persisted for many decades. And we want to get away from that. So the way analysts and data scientists and developers use data is important to us. We also believe that our clients work with us not only because we have innovative technology and cutting edge technology, but they need partners that they can trust with their data, because data, after all, is our identity. So to do that, we've come out with a policy that your data is your own. We're not going to use it for product development, and we're not going to keep it. It belongs to you. And we think that that is absolutely part of a revolution that we will see in data in the next few years. We've also invested in products that help put our products where our policy is. AI OpenScale, now called Watson OpenScale, is tooling that we're providing so that data scientists and developers who are working with a variety of data sets and open source tools, not just IBM products, but any machine learning development tools, can actually observe and understand how bias might be creeping into their systems, into their models. And so you can watch it over time, see it how it degrades, see how once you deploy an application and it's met with data in the real world, whether or not new biases are introduced, okay? We also have put investment into fairness and workforce revolution, diversity. One of the ways we do this is by direct investment. And this is just an example. P-TECH is a partnership with policymakers, educational institutions, and other business partners to transform education, because we believe that the skills that the workforce has is more important than your degree, frankly. And so what we've done is created a 6-year no-cost program. The first one started in Brooklyn in 2011. It was just one school with just a handful of kids from Brooklyn, and now it's over 111, so it's 111 schools, 4 countries. This is a material investment we're making to change the way education influences the workforce. We need these workers. We need these kids to graduate with these skills, more important than a degree from an elite place. We want them to get those too, but we care more about the skills. It's also a material investment in making sure that people have access to the right kind of STEM training and can become the new workforce of the future. So I want to end here by saying we've talked about a lot of things. So deliberate and continuous reinvention, not only through organic programs and projects with our clients, but our policy, our products, and finally our investment in programs. This is P-TECH. And I didn't mean for them all to be P's, but that's how it worked out. I finally want to encourage you to really take a look at all of the demonstrations. I'm excited to hear more about the workforce revolution that'll be featured in the next lightning talks. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Krista Kennard. I'm a cognitive developer at IBM. And today we're going to talk about using AI to help veterans find apprenticeships post-service. Let's put smart to work. Griff?
Thanks, Krista. My name is Mike Griffith. I'm a solution architect with IBM. And before we get started, just real quick show of hands, how many active service members or veterans in the crowd? Show of hands. Thank you for your service. So this was our challenge, and our goal was how do we find opportunities to bring meaningful employment opportunities to active service members as they transition from their military role back into civilian life. And as we started to look at the applications that currently exist out there, we found that they kind of fall into one of 2 categories. One is a military crosswalk type of application. So when you're in the military, if you don't know, you're assigned an occupation specialty code. And that specialty code is basically a description of what your job is. And so based on that code, there are websites you can go to, plug that in, and it will give you a list of jobs that you should be qualified for as you leave the service. The other type of application that we found that's out there is the typical job board like Monster or Indeed. And there you just go and find kind of an active listing of jobs, and it's sort of up to you to sort through those and figure out which ones are relevant to you and apply to those jobs. Both of these styles of applications have sort of a fatal flaw, and that is that they're not really intelligent. They're just giving you a listing of jobs, and there's nothing personal about the experience. And that's what was the inspiration for us to create the Watson Employment Manager for apprenticeships. So using digital reinvention, we created an AI system and that does three things, basically. It improves the veterans' insights into their own skill set, and in some cases exposes skills to the veteran that they didn't even really know that they had. It also improves the veteran's experience by bringing together open data from a number of different data sources, including Department of Labor, Career One Stop, ONET, HUD, WalkScore, and Google Maps. And it streamlines an entire process that the veterans go through as they leave the military service. So we use our AI system to create a 360-degree profile of the veteran, and that becomes the basis of our recommendation.
So I think the best way to see what we built here is to do it through the eyes of a veteran. So let's meet Jimmy. He was in the Army as an infantryman. Not exactly a job that exists in the civilian world. So when Jimmy comes to our application, he's gonna do two things. First of all, he's gonna tell us his MOS. We wanna be leveraging those skills that he gained in the military. But he's also going to upload his resume, where in his own words, he's going to describe his skills, experience, and interests. Our AI is then going to extract his skills from those sources, and Jimmy can actually interact with them and highlight which of these skills he would like to include in his search. Then our AI takes those skills and compares it to available apprenticeships. And Jimmy's able to see how his skills match the apprenticeships that are available to him. Some are going to be a strong match, some are going to be a medium match, and some are going to be a partial match. In this way, we are using AI to help him make his own informed decision about his future. And it's really more than just about veterans here. When this challenge came to us, what we did is we applied our digital reinvention strategy to come up with how can we bring new expertise, new innovation and technology? How can we bring new focus? How can we make digital a process that is currently manual? And how can we deliver this in a way that is responsive, insightful, and accessible? So come by our demo. We'd love to allow you to interact with our live application so you can see how we put SMART to work for veterans. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Slaw, the founder and CEO of Shift. We're a career change company for military vets. Shift is a team of veterans, career coaches, software engineers, and we're reinventing the way that people change careers after the military through on-the-job training and other workforce development programs like the DoD Skill Bridge Initiative and the Career Skills Program. While we're a small company, we were just named one of Fast Company's 2019 most innovative companies, and we're all really excited for that. Participating in this year's Opportunity Project allowed us to build the new front end for how we select our military fellows for their fellowship programs. It's called Career Nav. It allows vets to understand it allows vets to understand which jobs are relevant to them today, and it allows them to take a look at which jobs might be relevant for them tomorrow, so long as they pick up the right skills along the way. Our Shift military fellows participate in on-the-job training programs at our partner companies after completing tracks in digital analytics and, data analytics and project management prior to completing their on-the-job training programs. 85% of our military fellows receive full-time offers at their partner companies within 3 months of arrival, and all of the fellows have received full-time offers in industry within 3 months of their military separation. As many of you know, ONET is a database owned by the Department of Labor, including the Military Crosswalk API. This API data was a little bit siloed in that the raw source data that was exposed was limited to include the statistical accuracy of each data point. Through the Opportunity Project, we had the chance to reverse engineer the ONET, the Military Crosswalk API, which allowed us to train our own AI model, and it resulted in us being able to increase the statistical accuracy of CareerNav's prediction engine. By reverse engineering Military Crosswalk, this allowed us to go beyond military occupational code to relevant civilian occupation translations, and it allowed us to understand what specific skills veterans had to acquire along their career to obtain their ideal career outcome. Our AI builds pathways to dream jobs because it understands which skills and knowledge veterans have to acquire along the way. Overall, the experience in participating in the Opportunity Project was positive. We worked closely with ONET and Career One Step to better understand the underlying raw data sets and how to best parse them. And we worked closely, we also helped provide better documentation and additional API features so that other developers in the future could benefit from our research. We've seen radically different outcomes by facilitating on-the-job training programs versus seeing vets applying off the job boards. It leads to better paying and better fitting job offers. We also believe that we also believe that CareerNav can help to optimize some of the DoD TAP curriculum, particularly the instructor and facilitator guides around career discovery and career exploration. In exciting news, we're working with a couple of state-level agencies that will allow our program to be registered as an apprenticeship program, so now vets can also participate in addition to the active duty SkillBridge members. We have a little bit of a different perspective at Shift because our team is comprised of veterans, military spouses, and dependents. And so we're building for the future generation of military families because it's in our DNA. We all know that talent, and particularly the talent of the 250,000 service members who enter the workforce every year, is evenly distributed, but access to opportunity isn't. And that's exactly why we're working on what we're working on. Thanks so much, and I hope you have a great day.
Hello, I'm Stacy Gavaris, and I work in business development at Nepris. Nepris is a cloud-based solution that connects industry and education. And why do we do this? We all know this pipeline is leaking, and we've heard it today from a couple of the organizations that have already presented. There's not enough people with the skill sets that are needed to take the jobs that you have available now or to continue the great work that you are doing and you're presenting here today. So why is this pipeline leaking? Well, we think that there are two reasons that contribute to this. First of all, over half of the students who drop out say so because they don't see the relevance in what they're learning. If you ever have a student who says, why do I have to learn calculus, who really uses this stuff? That's exactly what's happening, but in lots of different areas of curriculum. In addition to the lack of relevance, there's also a lack of exposure. We used to think that academic achievement alone was an indicator of student success, and that's really not true anymore. What this recent study shows is that innovation is only coming from a very few areas of the country, which means that there's actually a lack of exposure instead of just the achievement or the attainment gaps. It's really about an opportunity gap due to lack of exposure. So how do we solve these two problems of relevance and exposure? Well, Nepris has a very simple technology platform that connects education with industry professionals, and this results in live, interactive conversations. Over the past 5 years, we have actually had over 7,000 conversations which have been recorded, so we now have a digital library of those authentic conversations. So as a result of working with the Opportunity Project, we were able to, first of all, take this extensive video library and organize it according to the Department of Education career clusters. So this shows on the left-hand side, we have over 1,000 videos in architecture and construction, for example. And this is a sample of what you might see if you go to that web page. These videos are updated regularly. I would say every 2 or 3 days we're adding to our video database. So in addition to tagging and organizing the videos, we also created a new tool called the Career Explorer. And this is a student-facing tool that allows them to independently do research on each of their career interests, if you will. It works pretty simple. They put in a title that they're interested in. It could be a job title or it could be an industry. And from there, they're offered a variety of selections. And they can click on that and go to information that is directly integrated to the ONET database from the Department of Labor. And here they can see information about their career options, such as what the pay is, because everybody wants to know what it pays. But also, what is the work-like work? Is it an environment that is problem-solving? Are you working independently in teams? Those kinds of things. From there, we took the tool and we extended it even further, and we created a comparison model so that they could look either within a particular field or across fields and compare those same features. We know that the Opportunity Project, the work that we've been able to do, is just the tip of the iceberg, and we're really excited about continuing to develop these tools. We also know that it takes very little to actually inspire, influence, and engage the next generation. And our goal through Nepris is to create millions of moments of discovery for every learner in every possible location. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those amazing talks, so inspiring. We also have Civis Analytics here, who will be demoing their product along the same theme. They partnered with Skills Engine, a workforce development and technology nonprofit, to create an algorithm that uses Department of Labor data and natural language processing to show veterans the most relevant registered apprenticeships based on their declared skills, interests, and military history. Cisco is here as well. We're excited to have you, and they'll have a table that you can go check out after these talks. Now it is, I'm very pleased to introduce Deputy Secretary of the U.S. Department of Labor, Pat Pizzella. Patrick Pizzella previously served as a member and acting chairman of the Federal Labor Relations Authority. And prior to joining the FLRA, he served as Assistant Secretary of Labor for Administration and Management at the Department of Labor from 2001 to 2009. He has also served as a member of the Board of Directors of the Overseas Private Investment Corporation and has held positions at the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, the U.S. Small Business Administration, and the U.S. General Services Administration. So with that, Pat Pizzella.
Now it's working, correct? Yes. Good afternoon. When my staff came to me and said, you have an invitation to present at Demo Day, my first thought is, having been forced to watch hours and hours of HGTV, that it was an event with Chip and Joanna Gaines. And we were about to knock down some houses that were going to be fixed up, and at the end of my presentation, we were going to turn it over to someone and they were going to be happy to move in. Obviously, upon further research, I realized that is not the demo day I signed up to join you today with. There was a time when I was Assistant Secretary of Administration at the Department of Labor from 2001 to 2009. I also was the CIO at that time. And I was not a technological visionary type CEO. I was what I would refer to as a management decision CIO. So I know firsthand the challenges about recruiting talent, retaining talent in the government, and how the government often relies on the private sector to not only fill in the gaps, but to provide a lot of the answers to the problems it faces. And at the department, one of the things we are undertaking in this administration in particular is an aggressive, robust apprenticeship program. Secretary Acosta has been a leader in this, and to a degree the technology industry has sort of been ahead of the curve on this. Maybe not always use the name or the phrase apprenticeship program, but the idea of finding people at a younger age and helping develop and channeling those skills and the desires they have so that they can become part of the workforce of the future, the one they're going to graduate eventually into. So I encourage the companies that are here and participating in Demo Day and beyond to make those investments regarding apprenticeship programs. Find the young people with an interest, particularly in the technology area, and make that investment. I think most of you, if you're like me and you travel around, often you can, if you walk through a mall or just walk down the street, almost every storefront has a sign in it that says help wanted. And they're always paying more money than you think they're going to pay because they're desperate to hire people. And if you talk to businesses, they're not waiting anymore for college graduates. They are going into the high schools and communities where they have factories, and they are recruiting the promising young people so that when they come out of high school, they can put them on a path to a job right away in their industry. And it could be a data plant, it could be a manufacturing company, whatever it is. They're not waiting anymore. They are investing early on their own. And this provides opportunities for those young folks who are in school, and maybe when they're getting ready to graduate, and they look at the cost of 4 years of education, might decide this might be an opportunity for me to get a start without taking on debt and getting to work in an industry of the future and acquiring a portable skill that I can use not only in the community I live in now, but wherever I may be living in 10 or 20 years from now. So I encourage those of you who are coming up with the bright ideas and the solutions to not underestimate the opportunities to get people when they're young and interested so that they can help move the country forward in this era of very, very competitive one for talent. And the American situation, the workforce here, it's no secret. For the last 7 or 8 months, there are literally millions of jobs more than there are people looking for jobs. There are opportunities out there. But there is that thing we've heard, that phrase, and you're all familiar with, a bit of a skills gap. And that's why a lot of companies are making that early investment now because they're trying to bridge that skills gap for themselves. There is obviously a personal interest or a corporate interest in some cases, but so what? Young people that have the initiative, the interest, and a little bit of that skill, they can be capitalized by the private sector to get involved early on in the economy and in the industries of their choice. Now, not all the answers have come from the technology industry, I must tell you. Many years ago, one summer, I worked at the Thomas Watson Research Center in Armonk, New York. I know there's some IBMers here. And I worked in there. It was before cable TV. I think it was before FM radio, so I'm really dating myself a bit. But it was a wonderful experience, and this is where the IBM, which I learned there that stood for I've been moved by the people who worked there, because they used to get reassigned a lot, they took all their, I'll call it their brain power, and they put them on one campus, and they were developing the future for IBM. I was just in the mailroom sorting mail. There was no email, there was no internet, it was all paper, and most fun we had was throwing those envelopes and trying to hit that box that said Fishkill on it, or Raleigh Triangle, Research Triangle, whatever it was at the time. And, but what I saw by going around with that mail card every day was, I guess what was the comparison of it today was it was an incubator for people who were thinking up the ideas for tomorrow and were figuring out who are they going to have to work on these projects and how are they going to find the PhDs of tomorrow. And this was a building full of a lot of PhDs. There were a couple of Nobel Prize winners in there. It's a little over, none of them wore jackets and ties. It was a very un-IBM-like setting. But one of the things I learned while I was there is that not everything that the technology geniuses said was always true. Thomas Watson, who the IBM, the center was named after, was famous in 1943 for saying, "I think there is a world market for 5 computers." Well, he was considered a visionary, okay? Fast forward, in 1977, there was a company called DEC. Does anybody remember that? Digital Equipment Corporation. It's founded by someone named Ken Olsen. I see heads nodding. He made the observation that there is no reason anyone would want a computer in their home. Back at the time, that was probably, he was probably in the mainstream of thought. In 1977, the CEO of Microsoft commented that Apple is already dead. Okay? And then in 2004, Bill Gates himself confidently stated that 2 years from now, spam will be solved. I gather it's not been solved if your computer is anything like mine. My point is that somewhere in this room, there are people who are thinking outside the box and trying to figure out that next solution. And what I observed is there's a lot of folks here with new ideas or ideas they're trying to polish up and make more effective. I encourage you all to keep thinking like that, because not only the government, but the country needs your thoughts and your input and needs you to see down the road as far as you can, because that's going to help America in this international competition to grow our economy, be competitive in the world, and actually continue to be a leader economically in the world. Many years ago, someone observed, and I heard this quote, this is in the 80s, but I never forgot it. And he observed that Washington is a town with lots of data, but little information. I thought it was a very good observation, and I kept it with me through my years in the government and in Washington. And I think this is a bit of our challenge, and your challenge, is finding a way to converting the data you're accumulating, the constant amount of it, and turning it into information so managers can make smart and informed decisions. So students who are thinking about their future and what career paths they're going to go on can make smart and informed decisions. So don't obsess with data. Find a way to turn it into information that everybody can use. And most of all, I think I would tell you that not all the answers and solutions and inventions of the future are going to come from the government, but I'm not telling you something you don't know. We're counting on you, risk takers, entrepreneurs, those of you who work particularly in the technology industry. You need to come up with a lot of answers, a lot of recommendations. You have probably a lot more flexibility than most of us in the government to move quickly. Please capitalize on that. I'm reminded of a quote I like from Nobel Prize-winning economist Milton Friedman, who once observed that if you put the federal government in charge of the Sahara Desert, in 5 years there'd be a shortage of sand. Now, I'm here to tell you, this administration, we're not going to get away with all the sand, but we're counting on you all to help us as a country, as well as the government, to be able to move forward and grow this economy and provide opportunities for the young people of today who are looking for opportunities in the future. Finally, I'd like to let you all know that the Department of Labor this coming month, sometime in the month of March, will be announcing that we're formalizing our DOL data board, and we are going to announce the appointment of a chief data officer. And this comes right on the heels of the president signing the law back in January about making sure that there's evidence-based information out there and that the government has a responsibility to coordinate that, and each agency and department does. And so we're going to be doing that. You can look for that announcement. I see the sign says stop several times. I will now stop. And I think that's all I have to say. Everybody have a good day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. With that, I hope everyone has seen a lot of exciting workforce-related tools that they're excited to check out in live demos. Do you guys see some other tools that you're excited about? Okay. So we're now going to shift gears again and talk about the future of healthcare. And I want to flag, are there federal agency people who are still in the room? Show of hands. Okay, so please take note because this could be you next year. I'm so excited to have Ed Simcox join us to lead off this section because what the Department of Health and Human Services this year has done a first ever Top Health Toolkit Sprint. And what that means is that they have used the Opportunity Project materials and process to run a sprint all on their own topics that you're going to hear more about. And we are really excited about the results of that process that include actually 11 new digital products built by 10 global companies and organizations that range from artificial intelligence tools made in Israel to amazing apps that will also use AI in the future, built by people who are not even graduates of high school yet. We have a 14-year-old speaker who's coming up in a few minutes, who's invented an app and founded a foundation already in her life. So with that, I'm very excited to turn it over to the Department of Health and Human Services Chief Technology Officer and Acting Chief Information Officer, Ed Simcox.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you today to talk to you about the Top Health project that we ran at HHS. Again, my name is Ed Simcox, and I am the Chief Technology Officer and Acting Chief Information Officer at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And my office works at the intersection of data, technology, and innovation to drive lower costs and improve health and human services for the American people. At HHS, we recognize that government alone cannot solve pressing health problems. It takes much more than government. It takes partnership with industry, partnership with academia and science institutions as well, both formal and informal types of partnership. And these are critical to advancing innovation in the space. So when the TOP program was first introduced to me, it didn't take long for me to realize the potential for using this methodology inside of healthcare, inside the four walls of HHS and with our partners across America. And it's safe to say that the Top Health project has really exceeded all of my expectations. At HHS, we were able to successfully fork, if you will, fork the project and replicate this TOP model from census to also work within healthcare. And we ran a 14-week sprint, and our 14-week sprint really shows how other agencies across federal government can scale innovation using the TOP model to advance their own mission-critical needs. Our Top Health sprint was comprised of 10 teams across 2 challenges. It lasted for 14 weeks. One challenge was around using artificial intelligence for improving clinical trials and experimental therapies. And the second challenge focused on data-driven innovations and emerging technologies to help drive innovation and solve for Lyme and tick-borne illness. And I'm very proud to announce that we have 11 tools that were produced out of our sprint, meaning that one team actually were overachievers, and they actually produced, since we had 10 teams and 11 solutions, one team actually produced solutions for both of our tracks, and that's fantastic. We saw data-driven innovators from all walks of life. We have middle schoolers, which I'm super proud of, and we were awed by many of our K through 12 STEM participants and future STEM leaders that joined us in our sprint. Top Health is really a testament to the fact that we never know where innovation is going to come from. Sometimes we have a good idea, but we need to open the doors. We need to open the doors of HHS and face outward and really collaborate. And that, for us, is why Top Health was such a great opportunity. And I would like now to introduce the two of the teams that will be represented today. First, you'll hear from Hadas Batran of Microsoft Corporation, who traveled to be a part of the Top Demo Day all the way from Israel. Hadas has led the Microsoft team in the Top Health Sprint to develop AI tools to help patients find experimental therapies for clinical trials, while also helping researchers and companies to find potential patient matches. And then we're going to hear from Olivia Goudreau. She'll pass the microphone to Olivia, and 14-year-old Olivia will close out the session by sharing her work on the second Top Health Challenge on advancing data-driven decision-making for Lyme and tick-borne illness. Olivia is one of our youngest innovators, although not the youngest, as we had several K through 12 STEM participants, and including her two younger brothers, by the way, who are here with us today. Hi, guys. I just want to personally thank Olivia on behalf of HHS and the federal government for your demonstrated leadership and for participating in Top Health. Olivia is an amazing example of someone who turns life's lemons into lemonade, as you'll hear when you hear from her. And she has transformed personal challenge into collective benefit for industry and the American people to benefit others. And she's going to share that with you today. So, without further ado, let's give a round of applause for Hadas, Olivia, and everyone that participated in the Top Health Project. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Hadas Batran. I'm the head of Microsoft Healthcare in Israel. And I'd like to talk to you today about our clinical trials matching system. Let's start with a video.
At any moment in time, there are more than 50,000 clinical trials around the world that are looking to recruit patients for their studies.
Clinical trials are not easily accessible for patients. There are hundreds and sometimes thousands of trials per condition. Clinical trials typically have dozens of complicated eligibility criteria in unstructured medical language. At the same time, patient recruitment is the main cause of delays in trials, and 50% of trials fail to reach their recruitment target.
Our project, A New Hope, provides a clinical trials matching bot to find clinical trials that are suitable for a specific situation quickly and easily. Our solution involves a conversational interface powered by the HealthBot service and natural language understanding.
The dialogue is based on a criterion engine that clusters the criteria and dynamically selects the next criterion to ask about. Using the criterion engine, and potentially also data from EMR, the system narrows down the relevant clinical trials the user is qualified for.
For patients, taking part in a clinical trial could mean a breakthrough in their treatment. For some patients, this could mean a new hope.
So we've built a system to intelligently match clinical trials based on the trial's eligibility criteria and the patient details. Our goal is to help physicians, patients, and also families of patients to find suitable clinical trials quickly and easily. So our goal is here really to narrow down the set of possible trials to the one that could be suitable for the patient. We want to do it quickly. We want to disqualify quickly by asking the right questions. Our core technology includes, first of all, a machine reading-based component for structuring the eligibility criteria in offline so that we can understand what type of entities appear there and connect them to the right ontology. We have an online engine that in real time is doing the matching process by deciding what's the right question to ask right now, and then qualify qualify the patient against the question that is asked. Last but not least, we have a conversational AI component, including also a general language generation with the goal of asking questions in layperson terms so that patients could understand them. Our work with TOP included a lot of data sets that we've received from them. We've used the structured criteria and patient data set to build machine learning models. We've used the matching data set to evaluate the performance of the system. We've used external resources such as the NCI APIs to enrich the data that we've received. And we've used advocates and physicians as well as experts, subject matter experts from NCI as feedback and validation. We've learned a lot from the work with the Opportunity Project. We've learned that data quality is key in order to be able to build models, and we also learned that getting to high quality data is very hard. We've learned that some criteria are more important than others, even if the data doesn't necessarily show it. Our work with the subject matter experts in NCI showed us that there are such important criteria. And we realized the importance of simplifying the questions, of asking simple questions in layperson terms so that people can understand. So, what's next for us? We're working on strategic engagements with leading healthcare organizations in the industry to adopt the technology. Through our partnerships in the industry, we believe that the technology can get to the hands of thousands of patients around the world and really impact lives. We're looking to also partially open source portion of this technology to empower organizations to build solutions that leverage this technology so that many organizations can create such solutions. I'd like to thank the Opportunity Project. It's been an amazing journey and we've learned a lot. Thank you to NCI and to HHS for working with us so closely. Come to our booth to see our demo. Thank you.
Sorry that I'm on the shorter side. Hello, my name is Olivia Goodrow. I'm 14 years old and the inventor of the free global app Tick Tracker and founder of the Live Lyme Foundation. The summer in between 1st and 2nd grade, I was bitten by a tick on vacation in Missouri. We did not see the tick and I did not have a bullseye rash. I started having flu-like symptoms, a tremor in my left hand. I couldn't walk. I was blacking out. I had vision loss and could not hold up my head, all at the age of 7. It would take 51 doctors and 18 months for me to be properly diagnosed with Lyme disease. It would take another 3 years and 4 more doctors to also be diagnosed with Bartonella, Babesia, Pott syndrome, relapsing fever, and an anti-1 tryptophan deficiency, all from a tick that we never saw. When I was 12, I heard a story about a mom and her son living in their car so they could afford the boy's Lyme medication. When I heard that, I knew that I needed to do something. I started the Live Lyme Foundation to raise money for kids that cannot afford their Lyme medication and for scientific research for better treatments and a cure for Lyme disease and all other tick-borne illnesses. Live Lyme has had over 360 applicants from 48 different states. I've given 31 grants to kids ages 5 to 21. I've also given 4 grants to top scientists at Stanford, Johns Hopkins, University of New Haven, and Northeastern who are all working to find a cure. 2 summers ago, I was on vacation with my family. I noticed something on my dog Mo's front leg. There were over 200 poppy seed ticks burrowing into his skin. I asked my mom if there was an app to see what ticks are around us. Probably not the best time to ask her as she was freaking out about the ticks. So later that night, I did my research and I could not find any apps that would let you see what ticks are around in your area. Again, I knew I had to do something. A year ago this month, we launched Tick Tracker. Tick Tracker is a free global app in multiple languages that shows people what ticks are in their area. We made it super simple for the user to log and track ticks. We are getting real-time data from citizen scientists as well as data from government and scientific institutions around the world. We are working on building the world's largest collection of tick data. We will make our open data available to scientific researchers and the public. TOP has helped us access vital government data from the CDC, USDA, Smithsonian, and the DoD. TOP has also put us in touch with some of the top government scientists in tick-borne disease research. Thank you, TOP. This morning we have a big announcement. Through the TOP Tech Sprint, we just launched our brand new heat maps. The update just went live today, and in the app stores, you are the first to know. In the near future, we will use artificial intelligence so the user can immediately identify the tick on their phone. Tick Tracker will be able to show tick migration, outbreaks, new tick species, and inform the user of potential risk on their smart devices. Tick Tracker will help keep your family, your pets, and livestock safe. My twin 11-year-old brothers, Jack and Will, are here today with TOP. Can you please stand up? Tick Tracker will help keep your, sorry, I already said that. The app that they are creating is called Tick Tick Boom, and the user gets to have fun while blowing up ticks while they learn. Who doesn't want to blow up ticks? Our ultimate goal is to end Lyme and all tick-borne diseases. Live Lyme and Tick Tracker can't do this on our own. We all have to work together. So please, everyone, pull out your phones, download Tick Tracker at the App Store right now, and then go tell all your friends and family to download Tick Tracker as well. We can all work together to help stop tick-borne diseases and raise awareness. Please come visit us at our live demo booths to brainstorm about how we can work together. I am here today because 7 years ago I was recruited by a tick, and I knew I had to do something to help others, because no one wants a tick-borne disease. Trust me, it's not fun. I would like to thank the U.S. Census, HHS, Department of Commerce, Dr. Kristen Honey, and Mr. Simcox for having me here today. I would also like to thank my family, who never gave up on me, and the Live Lyme and Tick Tracker teams. We look forward to talking with you at our live demo booths. Thank you, and always check for ticks.
Wow. Like, what were you guys doing when you were 14 years old? Don't tell me. So in addition to those amazing teams that you just heard from, there were 6 additional teams that took part in that TOP Health Sprint. And they're going to be at live demos. So Flatiron Health, Oracle, Oak Ridge National Lab, Philips, TrialX, and Rush Medical. So be sure to check them out. And now we're going to take an 8-minute break. Before we do, I have a challenge for you over the break. Take a selfie with someone and then post it to social media using #OpportunityProject. Thanks. Can everyone please take their seats? We're going to get started again. Okay. Oh, okay. Take a seat, please. Our final section is about empowering local decision makers. And for this final section, I would like to introduce someone that I've had the great pleasure of working with very closely, Perla Nee. She's the founder of Community Connect Labs, which provides high quality and affordable tools for government and service providers to reach low income and hard to engage individuals. And it's been truly amazing to see what she's built around the decennial census next year to prepare and to make sure that hard to count communities actually respond to the census. Every time I talk to her, her team has built a new technology tool. It's really remarkable. She's amazing. And one of her tools was actually built through her own Top Sprint. And you'll get to demo that in live demos. So without further ado, Perla Nee.
So I have the great pleasure of talking about today the importance of putting data in the hands of local government. So the story starts with a teenager's struggle with homework. So this is Linda. She is a high school junior in San Jose, and she's a good student in class. However, the homework that she hands in is riddled with grammatical errors. When asked, Linda says, "It is super hard to do an essay on your mobile phone." As it turns out, Linda does not have a computer at home, nor does she have internet access. And so she and her friends are actually doing their homework at Starbucks or in the parking lot of Starbucks. This is in the heart of Silicon Valley, this digital divide. The city of San Jose was really interested in understanding the pervasiveness of this problem, as well as the barriers for people like Linda's family to get internet and to get computers. So they took a two-step approach. The first was to use census data, and the second was to fill in the gaps with a survey of targeted neighborhoods. So they used the ACS data to focus on low-income neighborhoods where there was a high number of children. Then they asked us, as well as a Stanford professor, to design a survey that could easily be used to survey low-income families in that neighborhood, particularly parents with children in public schools. So we decided that we wanted to try something really innovative, and that is to use text messaging as a survey tool. Text messaging, you guys probably all use it. 95% of Americans text every day. Low-income people have mobile phones and text as well. It's free and it's easy, and you're able to do this in multiple languages. So in San Jose, we conducted the survey in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese, and this is the very simple interface. The survey found some of the conclusions were that the barriers were, number one, the cost of devices, and number two, the cost of the internet service itself. So it validated a lot of people's perceptions of the barriers. What happened next is fascinating. A year after the study, the city of San Jose authorized $24 million in funding for the first ever digital inclusion fund. 50,000 people will be connected to the internet. They will get refurbished devices as well as low-cost internet as a result of the study. I hope people here at the Census Bureau hear stories like this every day about how data can be used to provide real services to people on the ground. We are really excited about this kind of change because it's really a paradigm, a new paradigm about government, how government can lead the data collection revolution. You know, and it's really necessary today because we have far too many examples of data being used to exploit people And we think that stories like this really can show that government has a different vision for how data could be used to provide real services and help real people on the ground. So one thing that we're really looking forward to is imagining how we can further better couple data collection and service delivery. So one thought experiment is, imagine if you take a survey, and the survey screens your answers and provides personalized recommendations for benefits that you can receive. So let's say you answer you're a mother of 2, you make $26,000 a year, and instead of just a thank you, you also get a list of benefits that you might qualify for, such as free health insurance for your children in your county. That is a vision for how data can help people, so that residents know that government is not just collecting data for data collection's sake, but more importantly, that government is available to them to collect data and use it to provide them with tangible, better services. Thank you. So next, you're going to hear from other companies that will have other examples of how it's important to put data in the hands of local government.
Good afternoon. My name is Lane Graham, and I'm a solution engineer on the National Government Sciences and Civilian team for Esri and a PhD candidate in sociology. Since the year 2000, more than 300,000 Americans have died from overdoses involving opioids. The president has declared a national health emergency and has mobilized his administration to address this crisis. Addiction to opioids is a problem that thousands of Americans face today. According to the CDC, we lost over 72,000 people in 2017 alone. This equates to 175 people each day. While we can't bring our loved ones back, we can honor their memory and work towards solutions to address this opioid crisis. Geospatially enabled data helps us to visualize and analyze the breadth of the opioid crisis, taking data from across the country and using it to inform decisions. ArcGIS Insights allows us to not only share the capabilities of our software to be used for decision support, but it helps us in responding to the opioid crisis by distributing information across a wide range of stakeholders. Using open data from the Census Bureau, the New York State Department of Health, and New York Emergency Management Services, we can better understand patterns and trends related to opioid use. Here we can see the Department of Health concentrating on New York City. These data were imported using an Excel file and joined to census data by borough, showing the total number of EMS calls by location since 2016. Insights allows opioid rates to be calculated and visualized across the population at different scales in both time and space. Here we can see that even though each borough has different totals, they have broadly similar patterns. To explore the patterns at a more detailed level, we've used Emergency Management Systems open data from New York City. Filtering emergency management service calls by drug incidents, we're able to see spatially more differences at this finer scale. Temporally, they broadly show the similar patterns, but some nuances are more visible at this finer scale. We can see here a heat chart that helps us to understand that Saturdays are the most significant day of the week for drug-related calls, followed by Sundays in the summer months. Since data are reported daily, we can explore trends in the call times. This data clock shows us that peak call times are between 9 and 11 p.m. This product provides us with actionable insight. I now know not only what locations opioid emergencies are most likely to occur, but the times when they're most likely to occur. We can use this in decision support to dispatch people to these areas. A link chart allows us to explore multiple relationships between the variables in this federal data. In this example, we can see the dispatch areas that are crucial, which police precincts they interact with. This information can be shared between agencies and used to prioritize resources and predict where and when incidents are likely to occur. Each page can be shared with decision makers or the public who can filter and explore these data. Best of all, Insights tracks your workflow, automatically recording it as a model that can be shared and repeated by others, incorporating data from other agencies and identifying trends in different locations. Insights offers unique capabilities for decision support to a wide range of people involved in combating the opioid crisis. We can analyze data from different geographic scales, aggregate data to any spatial unit, and the workflows are recorded and repeatable. The results can then be used to inform decision-making and shared with the public. This product allows public health, public safety, law enforcement, and others to work together to understand and respond to the very real and present opioid crisis. Insights continues to grow in capabilities and is on a rapid development cycle with around 4 releases per year. ArcGIS helps us to understand patterns and trends that we're seeing in the data, from which we can make predictions about where and when overdose emergencies are likely to occur, providing decision support and sharing capabilities to those that are involved in addressing this nationwide public health emergency. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Wolf. I'm from the Geography and Geoinformation Department at George Mason University. I'm pleased to present to you this afternoon, along with my colleague Ari Cotoro, insights into opioid crisis through our continuing research using open source data and social media data. I want you to close your eyes just for a moment and imagine that you are a state executive. Maybe pick your favorite state or territory and your governor. So you get to call the shots. As a state executive, we would be motivated by the significant impact through the continuing rise of opioid deaths and the decline and impact that it has on our life expectancy within the U.S. We know we have a significant problem. We also know we must rely on openly available data. Our challenge then is to how do we shape that campaign, an effective one that can influence prevention, education, and policy that meets the specific needs and the demographic makeup of our community. This is actually a very, very difficult problem to try to solve. We plan on introducing a new policy in prescription management and launching a supporting marketing education campaign that will address the flow of opioid prescriptions from the doctor to the pharmacy to overdose and unfortunately in too many cases, death. We can learn from open source data, social and economic indicators, and from social media where to focus our efforts and how to craft that campaign meeting the educational needs of our community. And so in order to address our goal, what we will do is we'll collect at a county level this open source data. For example, we'll collect opioid prescription and mortality rates from the CDC. We'll collect demographic information from the census, who is our host today, as well as pharmacy information, and more importantly, pharmacy location data. We can then fuse that data with social media data, and in our case, we were using Twitter. And those tweets were mined using opioid reference words, and then we calculated language patterns, and such a pattern would be, say, like grade level of the tweet. So using a developed opioid prescription flow model, it was really a supply and demand, just thinking of prescriptions as a commodity. We can show that potential flow within a state and and across county borders. So even with this high-level crude data, we can begin pinpointing and targeting our campaign to meet the needs of the demographic of the populace. And so then we can really shape a clear campaign for what we need to do and roll out in our new policy. Our data-driven approach with county-level resolution can empower local prevention and policy efforts and can lead to reduced mortality rates. Thank you.
Hello. The federal government spent $750 billion in grant funding in 2018. How many people in this audience know how that money was spent, who received it, and what happened as a result of that funding? Not surprisingly, no one has answers to all of these questions. At REI Systems, we set out to find these answers in publicly available data sets. My name is Rujuta Waknis, and I'm a grants offering lead at REI. We started down this journey of our grants impact and story tool, also known as GIST, because we observed this lack of visibility. What kind of funding is available? Is it being focused on the biggest social challenge? Is it really being spent in a way to maximize the impact? We believe that there is an opportunity here to tell the grant story and highlight these facets. To tell our story, we picked 3 very different grant programs. A health center program from the Health Resources and Services Administration that focuses on improving access to quality healthcare for underserved communities. A hazard mitigation program from FEMA that reduces the risk of future damage to property and life. And a community centers, learning centers program from the Department of Education that helps students in high poverty areas meet their academic achievement standards in English and math. Did you know that millions of patients rely on 1,400 health centers across the country funded by HRSA? Or that 1.4 million students attended the Community Learning Centers program in 2017? These are the kind of results that we highlight right on our intuitive landing page. To tell the story consistently, we used a commonly known program evaluation framework called the logic model. We added external factors like approved legislation or natural disasters that occurred, alongside the actual funding for the program and the actions to distribute that funding. The results are right there. 24 million patients served through 180,000 staff members, with at least one of the health centers achieving their, with 90% of the health centers achieving their Healthy People 2020 goals. To make the program information more interesting, we pulled in visual aids, added basic program information, and added contact details so that you can reach out to the program. We also wanted to add in external perspectives. All the independent studies that researched the program, the results that they found, any news articles that the external media published. We curated these data sources to provide a full 360-degree view. We were able to construct these stories because of the several publicly open federal data sets. For example, we found detailed data around spend in usaspending.gov, but we had to look at the individual agency sites for their program performance. Of course, we were limited by what data was public. GIST shows us that the depiction of spend and performance together in an easy-to-understand way is possible. As users progress through accessing, being aware of our tool, accessing the wealth of data on it, and then learning and truly understanding the program impact that their communities and neighborhoods get, we hope that they, in turn, become advocates of that program in their own sphere of influence. GIST is live now. As we continue to evolve the tool, we hope that federal agencies continue to share their data publicly for better understanding and more transparency. For the federal program managers out there, what is your grant story? Do your stakeholders recognize the value of your program? For taxpayers, do you understand the benefit these programs have on your neighborhood and communities? We believe that GIST has started to answer some of these questions. Our journey on GIST was possible through the collaboration space provided by the Opportunity Project and the partners. It has been an incredible experience. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Samer Sadiq. I'm a senior web developer with eCivus. I'd like you to meet Alice. Alice writes grants for the California Department of Housing and Community Center. She's extremely concerned about the state of homelessness in California. Alice is like thousands of people making sense of federal grants, including grants professionals in government and nonprofits, government finance professionals, researchers, and citizens interested in open data and transparency. Why is Alice concerned? In a single night in 2017, there was 553,000 people who experienced homelessness in the United States. To put that in perspective, that is 17 out of every 10,000 people. So Alice has been tasked with helping to fix this national priority. But where does she start? She needs to increase the state's competitive funding portfolio. She needs to present a better, more informed, evidence-based, data-centric perspective in her applications. She needs to know if she's getting her fair share and how she compares to others going after this same pool of funds. And finally, whether she and her subrecipients have been good stewards of federal funds. It's also important to note that the question that Alice has to seek answers to are covered by both the Opportunity Project problem statements, and so eCivis addressed both statements with our solution. Increasing government accountability by connecting federal spending and program data, increasing access to and management of federal grants. We use the results of audit as a proxy for performance, since outcome data still isn't available in a uniform format. So Alice is on the hunt. However, she's having a hard time going to a dozen different websites to find the information that she needs. One of the main issues that she faces is that not all of it is in the same format. She has found tables in website, Excel spreadsheets, PDF, CSV files, and other database files. To make things worse, most of these files are so big that it will cause Excel to crash. Needless to say, Alice is frustrated. So learning from our previous participation in the Opportunity Project, eCivis kept our solution super simple. We created a single web application which mixes in numerous data into an easy-to-read visual experience. Homelessness count information is mixed in with population data to get a per capita basis of comparison between states. And if the user clicks on any state, it will further down and get more details. eCivis combed around 1,000 different federal programs to find the ones that truly address homelessness, whether directly or indirectly. eCivis research team added notes, and we provided links for further research and how to apply. For each of the grant programs we identified, we then did a per capita basis depending on the funding for each state. So in this example, we selected one program, and the map updates. The color becomes darker the more funding, and you can click on any state to get more details. A state comparison allows you to see how you compare against another state. This is important for Alice because she needs to know if she's getting her fair share or if she's missing out on opportunity that other states may have taken advantage of. We have audit information to determine if they've been good stewards of the federal funds. And what's next? We'd love your feedback. We'd love to show you the app. And we can use the same methodology and platform for other problem areas such as disaster recovery and opioid. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. Last one of the day. Kendrick Scarrett, I'm the county executive for Socrata. We'll just jump into it. Wrong way. Sorry. These are challenging times for our government IT professionals. the relationship between government, public, and IT industry has transformed into the world of digital transformation. At the core of that is what to do about data. That's the puzzle. Our use case is the Department of Education Every Student Succeeds Act, and their challenge as to how to take over 2,000 data points of educational data and present it in a concise, understandable, uniform format that is accessible to the public, school systems, and families. Our first step is to collect the data. So we created a dashboard that fosters an ecosystem of public and private entities that provides better information, tools, and services for families. A dashboard that increases transparency in the higher education marketplace, which will fuel competition and provide comparison shopping. Those 2,000 data points are focused on the nation's public school systems, and that information needs to be accessible to parents. This is a portal for employees to have self-service access to that trusted data in which they can create visualizations and stories to help parents navigate the systems more easily. States are looking to provide this information through digital report cards. This would give parents an interface for navigating important data about schools in their state, including per-student spending, test results, and more. Schools are a critical component of our infrastructure, and it is important for citizens, businesses, and officials to have access to information about their fiscal health. This Financial Explorer dashboard is designed to provide you with easy-to-use visual data regarding your school district, whether it's public or private. So what's the answer to the puzzle? It's a Socrata Connected Government Cloud platform that allows government, communities, and technology industry to create digital tools such as report cards and dashboards. It's a platform that helps empower citizens, industry, and government stakeholders with technology that makes government data more accessible and user-friendly while facilitating cross-sector collaboration to build new digital solutions in the world of open data. The results: your business intelligence and data infrastructure license costs go down, your productivity increases, and we foster citizen engagement. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And now I'm very pleased to introduce Dr. Stephen Dillingham to deliver closing remarks. Dr. Dillingham was sworn in as the 25th Census Bureau Director in January. He has 25 years of experience in government, including as Director of the Bureau of Justice Statistics, the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, and Director of the Peace Corps Office of Strategic Information, Research, and Planning. Thank you so much, Dr. Dillingham.
Thank you so much. It's a great time to be here. I want to thank all of you for being here this afternoon, and it's a very exciting annual occasion for the Opportunity Project Demo Day, but it's my first one, and I've learned quite a lot in the presentations that I've seen and the demo projects. I think you could probably say the same for yourselves, but I'm very excited to see these new tools and the innovations that are actually being applied, that are in action. The Opportunity Project is an important example of how the Census Bureau, government agencies, and outside groups are working together closely and productively to make data more accessible and useful, as Pat Pizzella, the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Labor, remarked. It fits squarely into our shared mission and goals of emphasizing open data and increasing the uses of relevant data in decisions and in our government and non-government practices. These amazing tools address challenges such as using artificial intelligence to connect veterans with apprenticeships. A very excellent presentation on that, and I know it's of special interest to the Department of Labor. promoting interest in STEM, using geospatial data to prepare for disasters, and combating the opioid crisis, as we just saw, the distinguished professor and others from George Mason and the other group. I was amazed when I saw the graphics there of the state of Oklahoma and the circles right around, particularly the center of the state in Oklahoma City. And if you looked at the state of Kentucky, you couldn't see the state because the opioid deaths, just kind of covered the state with the graphic. But I know the White House is very interested in that topic and others, as was mentioned, and we certainly appreciate the people that are applying data to make sure we understand that crisis better. But also some of what you've seen here today, assisting with local address data collections. I see Steve Lewis from Department of Transportation there. He's been very active in that area, and even the grants management that was just demonstrated. Terrific contributions in applying data to real-world problems and making sure it's relevant to our everyday lives and to government policies and practices. These new digital products include interactive maps, field data collection applications, network visualizations, games, artificial intelligence algorithms, as we saw, and more. So we at Census are proud to be part of this initiative and to partner with you and others. So in sum, I know that these live demos that you have seen and will be seeing represent the culmination of much work. Like you, I'm excited to see what is being done and what has been accomplished. I extend my thanks to all the teams and participants that are here today. I'd like to extend special thanks to our partners that include the Department of Commerce, the Department of Labor, the Department of Health and Human Services, FEMA, DOT, and the many others that are here. And we're going to hear in just a second from a representative from the White House. So I think that everyone that has participated so far and those that will be sticking around deserve a round of applause. Now I'm very honored to welcome Dr. Kelvin Droegemeier, the Director of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. If I was to tell you all about his accomplishments, he wouldn't have time to speak, but I will say that we were actually confirmed on the same day, January the 2nd, so we have that in common. But he has been very active at the White House in the science and technology area, and I'll let him explain the utility of that and how it's helping our nation so much. But it's a pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Droegemeier.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. How you all doing? It's a pleasure and a thrill to be here because I love the word opportunity. I think the Opportunity Project, that whole notion, really captures the spirit of what we have here in America. We not only have the most amazing R&D enterprise across the sectors of industry and academia and government and nonprofit organizations, but we have American values that really make that enterprise absolutely sing. And so when you bring forward challenges like have been brought forward in the past several weeks with the Opportunity Project, like the opioid crisis and other things here, and we say, let's get smart people working together, solving these problems. Some of them are underpinned by big data, some of them require other kinds of really interesting innovations, but when folks come together here in America, they can really do amazing things, and that's what I really love about this project, that it's solving real problems, and it's bringing people together to work together in partnership. And one of the things that you've heard me talk about, and I'll continue to talk about, is the importance of us in the United States focusing on all these areas of our research enterprise, industry, academia, government, nonprofit sectors, working together in ways that we really maybe haven't thought of working together in the past. Since World War II, our enterprise has evolved. It's really been an extraordinary ride, but we're really turning the page into a second bold era of science and technology here in the United States, where we have trillion-dollar companies. We have amazing capabilities to launch satellites. I was just over at the NOAA facilities across the way, and just it's really extraordinary how we're observing the planet and all the things that we can do with data. And so really liberating data is one of the major focal points of the White House, of really how do we liberate data to bring it forward to folks who are very innovative, just like yourselves, to solve some of the foremost problems, making sure the data are interoperable, making sure that we even know what we have, and working with the private sector to do these innovations. And this is really an extraordinary opportunity for us. So, you know, I know you've heard lots of talks today. I'm not going to stand up here and drone on, but I'm going to just tell you how honored I am to be here and how much I look forward to seeing some of the things that you've worked on and how excited OSTP has been to be a part of this activity through this opioid challenge sprint that we brought forward. It's a huge crisis. 175 people or so die, I think it's like every day due to opioids. My own state of Oklahoma, you just heard the director mention Oklahoma. You know, it's been a big crisis there. I was in the governor's science technology. I was her cabinet secretary of science technology. It was something that was really, really a challenge. And so when you look at unleashing the power of big data, unleashing the power of the human mind, and unleashing the freedom that we have in the U.S. to tackle problems by working together without limitations. And if there are limitations, this White House is very keen on removing any administrative barriers that stand in the way of progress, any regulatory barriers that are unnecessary that stand in the way of progress. There is absolutely nothing that we can't do together. So I think it's really extraordinary, the achievements that you have made. I think this program is really an amazing program run by our Department of Commerce, and Secretary Ross has been a great supporter of it. And I just want to let you know that we at the White House are extremely proud of what you've done. We are excited to see further sprints in the future and learning from the experience that you all have had. And I'll just close by saying I know that probably myself and probably nothing else is standing between you and happy hour here fairly soon. So I'm going to wrap up here with my deep gratitude and thanks to you for all the great work that you've done. And let's just keep going. Let's keep doing great science, doing great innovation in America, solving the problems that people feel are insoluble. We know they're not. When you bring good people together, smart people together, there's nothing that we cannot do. So thank you. Godspeed to all of you. Have a great weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Drogemeyer, Dr. Dillingham, and all of the other speakers. We're so grateful that you're here today, and we're excited about the future. So without further ado, we are about to go into the live demos portion of the day, which is the really fun part that I know everyone has been waiting for. So I just want to take a brief moment and acknowledge all of the people who haven't been on stage today who have made this incredible work happen. It's a huge team that goes into the sprints and everything else that we do. So I'll just briefly read the names that are on this list because they've put a ton of work into the program. I know there are many others, and we're very grateful for everything you do as well. So first of all, to the data stewards, user advocates, and product strategists, product advisors who've participated in the sprints who are in the room today. Could I just hear a round of applause if you're one of those or for them? Thanks. From the Treasury Department, Justin Marsico. From the Department of Labor, Andy Koo and Nathan Aldrich. From OMB, Joel Savory, Danielle Lawrence, and Natalie Rico. We also have Victoria Collin here today. The Department of Education, Ivan Metzger, to whom we also owe the amazing design of the materials for this day. Nikki Churchwell, Chuck Higgins, Eric Noble and Sarah Brunner from the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, Linda Liptrap, Carla Kaywork, and Dave Kakowski, Lindsay Campbell and Michelle Johnson, and the folks from the Forest Service, the entire Census Open Innovation Labs team, which includes Lorena, Mara, Emily Fong, Janisha Ting, Dominica Zhu, Victoria Fine, Vidya Spandana, and the whole census operation who have sponsored this work and helped us to make it successful, to Ron Jarman, Stephen Buckner, the facilities and conference center staff who have helped today. We're very grateful for all of your support of this work, and we just want to take a moment to thank you. So please join me in thanking them again. So the reason that we have you all here today is really because we want this to be a call to action, and we hope that all of you who are not already participants will be joining us next year on stage as participants, having built something amazing. So 3 really critical announcements that we wanted to flag. The first is that we will be running new sprints in 2019, and we want to announce that 2 of the themes for the next cohorts will focus on workforce issues and using technology to encourage people to respond to the 2020 census. The second is that we are running a prize competition this year. We're very grateful for the support of the White House Office of Management and Budget in helping us to make that happen and collaborating with us on the prize competition that we'll be launching this summer. It will be the first ever for the Opportunity Project, and we hope that everyone will participate. The Opportunity Project is a really big part of the President's management agenda and the strategic goal to leverage data as a strategic asset. So we will be rewarding creative projects that accomplish that goal. And finally, we encourage you to actually submit your idea for a challenge, for a problem statement for 2019. And you'll be able to do that through a process that we'll be launching in the next couple of months. But for now, please visit opportunity.census.gov, where you can sign up to keep in touch with us and learn more. And I will now turn it over to Mara, who's going to lead us into live demos.
Yeah, well, first I want to say that Drew actually left herself off of the thank you slide, but that actually would have been weird. So I would like to take a moment to thank Drew. She has poured her heart and soul into this project, into this day, working night and day, sometimes at 3 in the morning, very random hours, to make this all happen. So let's give it up for Drew. And now the moment you've all been waiting for, live demos. So quick logistics. We're all about to get up and walk one area over where there's a live demo expo. There will be people kind of guiding you over there. All of the teams you saw or heard about will be there. One very quick plug for another project that COIL is working on right now. It's actually based using kind of the same kind of sprint model and open innovation model to generate content for the 2020 census, which, as you all know, is incredibly critical and is coming up very soon. So what we're doing is empowering community groups, cities, organizations to create their own content that reaches their own communities, particularly hard to count communities. And so if you want to get involved in that, you're a creator, a storyteller, a designer, a writer, or know networks of those types of people, please come talk to me and we'd love to get you involved. As a fun little thing, we actually have a meme generator station, so you can create a 2020 meme, make sure they're good. And without further ado, we'll go into live demos.
One friendly reminder before everyone stands up is that if you were walked in by an escort, I think that particularly applies to our foreign visitors, someone should be meeting you to walk you over there and also to escort everyone over there. So yeah, let's get some live demos going. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.